Emirates has extended the suspension of flights to and from South Africa. Heidi Jokos joins me now from the newsroom. Heidi, tell us a bit more. What's the reasoning behind this decision from Emirates?
So, Annalie, what we understand is that in the beginning of January, Emirates announced that it will be suspending its flights to and from South Africa, and that was for about a period of 2 weeks. And then we understand that they extended it until the 4th of February, and now we understand they have extended it until the end of the month. Of course, the reasons given by Emirates are quite vague. We understand that initially they said it's due to operational reasons. We persisted to ask whether or not this has to do with the fact that we had a second wave and our numbers were increasing, but we did not get any clarity on whether or not it was linked to that. What's also interesting is that Emirates was constantly flying into the country in terms of cargo. Emirates was the airline that delivered our vaccines on Monday, so it's unclear as to what the exact reason is for them to extend this suspension, but it is quite concerning given the fact that aviation globally is not doing well and numbers are increasing. So people are very concerned about what this is going to do to aviation. But also, if you just look at South Africa's COVID-19 numbers, we're over the peak in terms of our second wave, but they've still opted to suspend flights. What we're still trying to confirm with Emirates, though, is that whether or not South Africans in transit through the UAE will be allowed to still fly to the UAE if they are transiting to another country. We are not able to confirm that yet at this stage. Emirates says they will provide another statement with regards to the fuller details. But we know that flights coming in from Dubai will not, or rather from the UAE, will be extended until the 28th of Feb.
Such a vital flight path for South Africa. Access to much of the world goes through the UAE. Heidi, I want to ask you, I know you've said you haven't got exact clarity from Emirates on the reasoning behind this decision, and I'm going to steer away from calling it the South African variant, because I think calling it that is exactly why a number of countries have placed what you would call sanctions against travel from South Africa. The 501Y variant. Has Emirates in the past expressed any worry that flights to and from South Africa could import this variant from South Africa to the UAE?
And I think that's extremely important to try and establish, but unfortunately we have not been able to get a sense from Emirates as to why they are doing this. We're not sure if it's because there's a lot less demand with regards to people travelling, or what the actual reason is. But Annalie, if you just look at what happened in December in the UAE, Dubai and the UAE were open to travellers coming in. All you had to present was a negative COVID-19 test, and they would allow travellers to come in. Many people opted to go to the UAE to spend their festive season there. And now the UAE is pushing back on that, and they are having some restrictions and not allowing certain people to go into the country because their numbers are increasing. So it might be linked to the fact that they are taking precaution, to the fact that numbers are increasing globally, and they're very concerned about this, and because there are new variants from the UK, from South Africa. But we have to just be careful to link it to that without full confirmation from Emirates. But we are pushing them for an answer. We've just been told it's because of operational reasons. So we're not exactly sure if it's got to do with demand or if it's got to do with our COVID numbers. But as I mentioned earlier, our COVID numbers are dropping. So we'll have to get further clarity on that. But as you mentioned, an extremely vital path. You know, many people connect to the UAE to travel elsewhere. And if that connection line is stopped to South Africa, it is concerning.
Very isolating as well. Thank you very much, Heidi Jokos, for that update. We'll get to the bottom of that, try and get in touch with Emirates for you. Anyone with flight plans via Emirates, reconsider that for the time being.